So in the following two papers, me and my colleague later, Michail Himku, will present to you a curious work of grammatical thought, a grammar textbook of Church Slavonic for the Romanian environment, probably written in the middle of the 17th century. In my presentation, I will talk about the Slavic context of the work, while my colleague will present the Romanian context. In the mid-17th century, Church Slavonic, the classical language of the European East, was still a polycentric and prescriptural language used in different confessional contexts. However, the first phase of the unification process with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth at its core had already begun. The superiority of the cave models consisted especially in the extensive printing and philological activity of the centers placed in the eastern part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, not forgetting the fact that the local Church Slavonic variety functioned in both Orthodox and Catholic contexts. This milieu was able to produce the first series of printed language manuals, primers, grammars, dictionaries, something that did not exist in other regions. The most influential work in this context was the Church Slavonic grammar by Meletij Smotryc'kyj, first printed in 1619 in Vievis by the Vilnius Orthodox Brotherhood. A native of Volhynia, now Western Ukraine, Smotryc'kyj studied both in the colleges of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and in German universities, and was originally Orthodox, but later converted to Catholicism. His grammar of almost 500 pages has a complex structure, including a preface written in Ruthenian, orthography, prosody, consisting of accentuation and punctuation, but also versification, syntax, and the main part, morphology, then called etymology. Smotryc'kyj's complex grammatical theory is based on the Greek and Latin grammarians of the Renaissance, but adapted to the specifics of Church Slavonic. The successive editions and adaptations of Smotryc'kyj show that the use of this grammar spread throughout the Church Slavonic cultural area in the 17th and 18th centuries. The number of surviving manuscripts is, of course, very large, and only a few examples are given here. The most influential works are underlined: the first Lithuanian edition, the Moscow edition of 1648, and the St. Petersburg edition of 1721 with a didactic supplement. In general, the works of the 17th century are mostly modeled on the first Lithuanian edition, while the works of the 18th century are based on the Petersburg edition. There are no complete reprints, there is always some adaptation. I have put in italics the major revisions of the grammar, which are considerably shorter than the original work. Mrazovic's 1794 adaptation became a standard textbook in the Habsburg monarchy with many reprints. Among the adaptations, two manuscript versions written in a language other than Slavonic occupy a special place: our bilingual Slavonic-Romanian grammar and an 18th century Latin translation by Meletij Sović, one of the protagonists of the 18th century glagolitic printing. The adaptation of Smotryc'kyj's grammar, Istolkovanie ili izjavlenie gramatiky Slovenskija, was written in the milieu of the Slavonic school in Târgovişte, the traditional political and spiritual center of predominantly Romanian-speaking Wallachia. The grammar has been preserved in two manuscripts, one of which is complete, comprising 37 folios and dating from the 1660s. The authorship of the grammar is attributable to one of the teachers of the school. In the presentation, I would like to find answers to the following questions: how was the grammar adapted to the Wallachian environment? Why the grammar was adapted and not simply copied and translated from the Lithuanian edition? Why was so much energy invested in creating a specific Slavic version for a Romanian-speaking environment? Would the Romanian version not suffice? An answer to one of these questions can be found in the preface. The author of the grammar textbook points out that the Smotryc'kyj's grammar used in the classroom was not sufficiently comprehensible for the students, so it was necessary to provide a better explanation, hence the title of the text. The text of the preface could also be interpreted as a statement of general problems of understanding Slavonic texts in Wallachia. This declared purpose contrasts with that of Smotryc'kyj's grammar, the aim of which was to introduce into the school curriculum a new method of learning of the cultural language. The linguistic situation in Wallachia at the time was very complex, as two processes were taking place simultaneously. The first was the replacement of the traditional archaic liturgical variety of Church Slavonic by the more prestigious Kiev variety. And the second was the gradual replacement of written Slavonic by written Romanian in non-liturgical contexts. The sovereign's chancellery, moreover, continued to issue the most prestigious documents in a peculiar pidgin Slavonic, which for several centuries developed largely independently of the religious written tradition. The structure of the istolkovanie is much simpler than that of Smotryc'kyj's grammar. It focuses only on the grammatical theory related to morphology, called etymology, and specifically on nouns, including adjectives, pronouns, and verbs. The theory, as based on Smotryc'kyj, is very complex as it concerns more than 10 different grammatical categories, some of which are absent or differently conceived in the modern grammar. The English terms I'm used here refer to the categories that are now obsolete, are based on Melanchthon's and Sović Latin terminology. What are the main strategies of adaptation? The first is the presence of a Romanian translation, but even the Slavic text is obviously the work of a Romanian speaker, as can be seen from the negligent attitude to grammatical agreement, doubts in accentuation, and traces of Romanian interference, especially on the morphosyntactic level. Smotryc'kyj's text is followed sentence by sentence, but with a few exceptions, no sentence is identical with Smotryc'kyj. The omitted parts are mainly tables of paradigms, explanations of some inflectional exceptions, and the chapter devoted to numerals. Here the student is asked to consult Smotryc'kyj directly. Besides omitting some parts, the main adaptation strategies are adding questions to the grammatical explanations, complete rephrasing, replacing some words with synonyms, changing the word order, replacing tables with coherent text, and modifying and reducing the number of examples. These adaptation strategies are very unevenly distributed within the works. The most radical changes are made in the part of nouns, while the chapter on pronouns is changed more symbolically, mainly word order and no change of examples. In very few places in the original grammar, there is already a question in Smotryc'kyj, I mean. Mostly, however, the question is added in the new version before a definition or a declarative sentence is changed to a question and answer. I will not quote all the examples, but just read one. Originally, there are 3 degrees of comparison. Changed to how many degrees of comparison are there? 3. Apparently, at least at the beginning, the author tried to make the textbook more didactic by switching to the popular question-answer style. Rephrasing often means providing an explanation to replace a rather laconic definition in the original grammar. Such new definition may be considerably longer than the original one. Just a few examples. Dative is originally. Dative is with which we give. Change to. The dative is with which we announce when we do evil or good to someone. Or comparison is the passing of the compared noun through degrees of comparison. Change to. Comparison is when 2 or 3 things are put together and they are equal in beauty, evil, or dignity. There is a comparison and a recognition of which of them would be better or worse. Yes, so sometimes the new versions are longer. Such rephrasing was probably used in cases when the author-teacher felt the passage was too complicated, difficult to understand, or incomplete. Besides the cases where the new definition becomes longer, there are of course cases where it becomes shorter and is rephrased in simple words. You can see that the author has tried to avoid too many complicated words or forms, especially deverbative nouns and participles. For example, orthography teaches how to write correctly and how to put the right stress on the words. Change to orthography teaches how to write what correctly. Or compound nouns in which a noun made up of 2 words is recognized. Change to compound made up of 2 parts. In some of these cases, the definition was not simplified, but actually different. Gentile, this is the Melanchthon's terminology, is what is derived from the Gentile type of names. So it is changed for Gentile is what is taken from the name of its country. In some cases, the new definition clearly has a different meaning from the original one. So perfect tense is with which we mark the finished action or passion. Change to perfect tense is which expresses a thing that has not happened only once. In some cases, we see the interference with other information that appears in the original original grammar. The fifth declension concerns adjectives with 3 endings. Change to adjective names have 3 or 1 ending. Or this has an article. A pronoun is added. Oh, yeah. So he took the term article. The most serious discrepancy concerns the notion of rod glagola, verbal gender, which Smotryc'kyj understands as gender in the L participles, byl, byla, bylo, so the same as in nouns. While the author of Istolkovanie interprets it, certainly due to interference with the Latin and Greek term, as voice. In Smotryc'kyj's terminology, zalog. As a result, the chapter on rod glagola is a partial copy of the chapter on zalog. To complete the confusion, the Târgovişte text contains the chapter o zaloze twice. In the chapter on mood, the term zalog is used in the sense of Smotryc'kyj's naklonenie. Let us add that in the lists of verbal grammatical categories, Istolkovanie uses the list of Smotryc'kyj's with all 3 terms, zalog, naklonenie, rod. So in the list, it's separate, but then it's completely mixed up. The substitution of words by synonyms does not concern terminology, except for the confusion mentioned above, but verbs in general. The general tendency is that the Târgovişte text uses fewer different verbs in the definitions. The verbs are seldom used in the textbook. Definitions are replaced by those that are often used, preferring few terms such as vziaty, znamenovaty, zjavljaty. The verb lišiti se, in one of these examples, to lack, is replaced in one example by neiměti, not to have. Yes, just to simplify the language. Changing the word order sometimes seems to be motivated by replacing an unusual word order by moving the subject to the beginning of the sentence. Yes, so meždudejstvitelným, že I sredním različie jest. So the različie as the subject is in the rephrasing put at the beginning. The difference is not is the difference, but the difference is. Or the diminutive type of noun is one that means diminution. Change to verbs that mean the diminution of things are called diminutives. Yeah, so there is, in some cases, it seems that the word order is closer to Romanian or a more logic one. Yes, čísla glagola 3 sud change to čísla glagola sud 3. Yes, so there are 3 numbers of verb. In 2 places, the author of Istolkovanie rephrases a short graphically formed expression, a table, with longer sentences. Here too, the author probably wanted to avoid any doubt about the meaning. So here there is a table. Masculine nouns are of man, of dignity, and so on. And it is rephrased to all men's proper nouns are masculine, for example. All nouns that denote dignities are, yes. A separate chapter of the adaptation of the grammatical text is the treatment of examples. The most attractive are the replacement of the examples linked to the local origin of the grammar. The proper names and adjectives formed from proper names, which in Smotryc'kyj grammar refer to the eastern part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, are treated in Târgovişte grammar in 2 possible ways. They are replaced by the words referring to the Roman-speaking countries. So instead of Vilnius, there is Bucharest. Or by biblical ancient realia. Yes, so inhabitant of Vilnius, Jerusalemite. Yes, or Lithuanian, Persian. Yes, in one case, the biblical ancient reference is replaced by the original one. So Roman, Alexandrian, Antiochian is replaced by Wallachian, Moldavian, Hungarian. And I put the examples from later grammars because there is always something. Yes, you have Vilnius, in another version you have Kyiv, in the next Moscow, in the next Zadar, yes. So in the next you have Danube, yes. So it's quite funny. There is the Perm, yes, also in one of the. Yes. So that's a sort of thing. Then, in few cases, the examples clearly refer to local political realities. So Patriarch, Emperor, Consul is switched to Logothet Spatar, Wallachia court officials, yes, even using the Romanian spelling in the Slavonic text, or within the example of possessive adjectives, yes, Peter's and father's, so something general, is switched to lords, the vlast gospodářské, which is the terminology, the Wallachian terminology, or the Wallachian and Moldavian terminology, and všemohutstvo, omnipotence, God's omnipotence. The addition of some examples of common words seems to me to be motivated by a better comprehensibility in the Romanian context, such as muka, that there is added, yes, the words like delva, snocha, which wouldn't maybe be really familiar, are changed to muka, yes, which also exists in Romanian as munka. Or the perst, dobrodětěl, is changed to pieseň, yes, which in the church, and to vest, as we have in Romanian veste. Yes, so it seems to me that it can be some motivation of the better knowledge of these. And similarly, neasit, pelican, biblical word, is changed for vran, yeah, which is a rook, but in the contemporary Romanian Slavonic sources, it's used as a name of the bird in the Wallachian coat of arms. While the change of examples to those related to throughout the grammar, there is a clear tendency to favor examples related to religion or education, sometimes replacing examples with a negative connotation. So the golden is to heaven, celestial. Yes, names of pagan personalities are changed to Christ, pastor, things like this. Cold word changed for saver, yeah, spasitel, yes, a winner, and so on. And what seems to me quite curious, the example of the numbers, singular, dual, plural, člověk, man, is replaced to father. So one father, two fathers, more fathers. Yeah, so maybe father, the spiritual father. Yes. Besides the changes which are related to the religion, and they appear mainly in the chapter on nouns, in the part which is dedicated to verbs, the student should be motivated by the frequent appearance of examples that are forms of the verb to read and to write. Yes, replacing the more negative to beat and neutral to speak. Smotryc'kyj uses as one of the paradigm verb byti, as to beat, which is completely replaced by to read and to write. Yes, and sometimes even the interesting replacement is lublю, yes, I love, which is replaced by lublю Boga, yes, I love God. That there will be no doubt, yes, about the meaning. Or I lublю roditeľa, yes, I love parents. Yes, and an interesting gender thing, yes, in it, yes, pedagogical reason can also be maybe behind the replacement of ženište, bad woman, yes, as an example of the honestative, and bad child to bad horse, yes, konište, and big head, glavište. So it seems not offending anybody. Mm-hmm. In 3 places, the author of his Târgovania replaces single words with sentences in order to make the examples more explanatory. Most of these examples are placed in the chapter on cases, one of the most problematic parts of Slavic grammar for non-Slavic speakers. While Smotryc'kyj illustrates the explanation of cases by a word in the appropriate form, as for Belarusian or Ukrainian speakers, no need of further explanation, the Târgovişte grammar places the form in the whole context in order to approach the meaning of the form to a speaker of a non-Slavic or Balkanized language. So from člověku to man, so I gave bread to this man, tomu člověku dá chléb. Or locative, about a man, o člověce, it's the completely new sentence. It's not right to talk badly about the dead. O umierších nedostojit zle glagolati. And vocative, it's again the religionization, yes, not člověče, man, but oh my God, yes. Full sentences are added to the substantive examples, apparently because of the poor comprehensibility of the original examples. So moje rozuměti, my understanding, which is a sort of calque of Greek, is replaced by educative. Moje čitati a tvoje poslušati. My task is to read and yours to listen. Yes, or ino včera, ino dnes, otherwise yesterday, otherwise today. It's gorko zelo polezno mi jest. Bitter is very useful for me. Yes, so a completely new things. Similar to the case of rephrasing, the change of examples can lead to a change of meaning and even to mistake, with the consequence that the example no longer corresponds to the definition. Such cases are most obvious in the cases where the examples were changed to those related to education and religion. So if he makes the examples of nouns ending in "y," ljubi neplody, so neplody, infertile, he replaces by sviatýňa, which has nothing to do, yes. In Old Church Slavonic, yes, but here, yes. Or examples of intransitive verbs. Stoju, sežu, splю, I stand, I sit, I sleep. So he changes. I read, I write, which is no more intransitive, yes, but it's educative. Or imperative be, again, beat, yes, yes, so no, yes, čitach, I read, yes, I learned, yes, it's no more imperative, yes. Or then radiative pronoun, actually pronoun, which is tolik kakov, such what. And there is a new example, člověk učen jest, the man is learned, which is not really a pronoun, yes. A striking example of the carelessness in choosing the right example is the chapter on verbal tenses. These originally derived from Greek grammar, already completely confused in Smotryc'kyj's grammar, but still which shows some effort to have a new system in it. In Târgovişte textbook, these all four past tenses, so the perfect, aorist, and so, which based on the Greek grammar, are exemplified by the same Romanian form. I'm cheated, I read, yes. So there is absolutely not seen any difference. So conclusions, in answer to our question about the manner and reason of the adaptation of Smotryc'kyj's grammar in the Târgovişte school, we can state the following. The aim of the textbook is to help explain the theory, especially in cases where the author felt that the original Smotryc'kyj's text was not clear enough. The style of explanation is simpler and more explanatory, sometimes not for us, as we have a different language background. The vocabulary is more reduced, more complicated forms, as participles are often avoided, local references and more familiar words are used. There is more focus on some issues that are problematic for Romanian speakers, the meaning of cases, the determination of the gender of the noun, the most common irregularities in the Romanian Slavonic texts. Pronouns and verbs are considered to work more similarly to Romanian, so there was no need to change the explanation so much. The educational character of the text is enhanced by references to religion, morals, and learning, yes, as it was usual in primers of that time and up to the 20th century. Paradigms are not included because they are already in the grammar, which should be the main reference. Often the reason for rephrasing or changing example is not obvious, just to be different, yes. Following the orthography, the grammar of the Slavonic text according to the model is not so important. Yes, it was the meaning and not the manner how to write it, yes. So we describe a grammar, but we do not get it actually, but that's not so important. The last remaining question concerns the reason why the Târgovişte school produced a Slavonic text, a new Slavonic text, at a time when Czech Slavonic was in decline in Romanian-speaking clans, poorly understood and not even the native language of the author. We can assume that the grammar was also intended for the Slavic speakers, Bulgarian students who we know that had attended the school at that time. Yes, even one of the presumed authors, yes, we know about him, yes, from the Bulgarian manuscripts that were written by a student, Bulgarian. We can suppose that the grammar was written before the complete abandonment of the Slavonic language, when there are still Slavic inscriptions from that time, yes, fewer and fewer, but still. But it is also true that it was considered normal for such a type of educational text to be bilingual. So have to have the Slavic and Romanian version. Yes, and this time is the peak of the bilingual texts. The intention of producing a Slavonic version was maybe just as to produce a bilingual version as for didactic reasons. And that would be everything. Thank you.